Mrs. Zena here. Today we're going to continue talking about reusing materials here at school in our classroom. Classrooms can look really different, so this is obviously dependent upon the things that we're going to talk about that I'm going to show you today. But also just thinking about in general, whether it's in the classroom or at home or places that we are, how can we reuse materials so they don't end up joining all the other trash in landfills, trying to help take care of the earth that we live on. So first, I want you to ask yourself, thumbs up or thumbs down? I know how to reuse materials and the importance of that. Thumbs down, I don't really know how to reuse materials and why that's important. Or maybe you're in between. I know some ways to reuse materials, and I think I might know it's important. Where are we at? Go ahead, show us. Okay. Honesty is so helpful because now we know how many of you feel confident in what we're trying to talk about and might be able to share a lot today, or how many of you are like, I'm not real sure, but I'm going to learn. So I'm going to grab objects that are in this classroom setting that I'm in, and we're going to talk about how could this be reused. And then we're going to do some exercise to make sure we're not getting too stationary, right? We're going to keep moving, keep our activity up, and talk about the next object after that. All right, here's our first one. I have a pencil. So a lot of students don't like to use pencils once the eraser is all used up, because then it's really hard. So you have solutions to that, right? We have erasers that can fit on the top of pencils to help create more. Some people have a big eraser they use separately. But regardless, if this pencil was a little stub or it's a long one, the lead, it just doesn't sharpen right and it's super frustrating. I don't want this pencil anymore. How could we reuse that? I want you to think. We're going to do some exercise and then we're going to come back and your teacher's going to pause the video and call on somebody to share how they would reuse a pencil in the classroom. So the exercise that we're going to do is we're going to get down on the ground and we're going to do 5 push-ups. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, now pause the video and let's talk about how a pencil could be reused. Welcome back. Maybe you talked about building something art supply wise with pencils. Maybe you have a friend who loves pencils but would still use the pencil if it's still good. I've seen people make birdhouses and things out of pencils before, but I'm sure you thought of creative ways that a pencil could still be used. All right, let's look at our next object. A bottle of glue. How can this be reused? While you're thinking how we could still reuse a glue bottle, let's do some exercise. We're going to do some sit-ups. So go ahead and get down on the ground. While you're thinking about that glue bottle, feet flat, knees bent, we're going to do 5 sit-ups. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Go ahead and pause the video and talk about how to reuse glue. Glue bottle could be used as simply as taking the cap off and refilling it. You can reuse a glue bottle for a long time. And the big buckets of glue that you can refill them with is cheaper than continuing to rebuy just the container with the smaller amount in it. So buying a larger portion to refill anybody's glue bottle when it's empty is a helpful way to reuse what is a still working thing. All right, next object we're going to talk about is a paper clip. How can you reuse a paper clip. While you're thinking, we're going to do 5 air squats. So make sure that your feet are slightly pointed away from each other, knees going away from each other. And we're going to push our hips back and squat down. 1, stand all the way up. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Go ahead and pause the video. How can we reuse paper clips? Welcome back. Paper clips are really easy. Just reuse them like they are. I'm sure you can use these. You can unbend them a little bit, connect them together. You can make something out of them, almost like a chain to hang stuff on. But you can also just reuse a paper clip over and over and over again. So this is something you actually don't need to buy that often unless every time you use it, you're giving it to somebody else. So paper clips are just a reusable object that we can use a lot. Next objects. Markers. Markers. How can we reuse markers? These are dried up. They don't work anymore. How can we reuse these? Kind of cool. Let's go ahead and exercise while we're thinking. We're going to do some lunges. We're going to do 5 lunges. So remember, lunge, we're going to step, get that back knee down to the ground, front knee at 90 degrees as best as you can, and then push off your toes on your back foot to standing. Then go to the opposite leg. 2, 3, 4. Oh, you're doing so good. And 5. You're so good at your exercises. All right, go ahead and pause the video and talk about how to reuse markers. Welcome back. Markers might have been a little bit hard about how to reuse them. I think it's fun to play with. You can push them together and build things kind of like blocks. How many of you have done that before? Yeah, I bet a lot of you. You know, something else that I've actually done as a parent, little kids, like my kids when they were little, love the noise that a cap makes when it comes off, and they liked just pulling caps off of things. So I actually one year took the end of the markers off and pulled out the marker that is inside. So you can completely take the tip and the inside out of this. So it's just a plastic tube with a cap. And you can put that cap on the end back on. So now it's a marker without any of the stuff that gets you dirty on the inside. And so my kids could take the caps off over and over and over again and hear that noise. And they weren't going to be drawing on the walls or all over their face when they were 2 years old. So it's kind of a fun toy, and it works on your hand-eye coordination, fine motor control. So you could do something like that with your markers. All right, friends, our next thing is a tissue box. How can we reuse a tissue box? While you're thinking, we are going to do 5 burpees. This is Z's favorite. All right, so we're going to go down to the ground. There's lots of different ways you can do burpees. I'm going to go all the way down to the ground. So my chest goes all the way down, and then I'm going to come, jump my feet in, jump and clap. 1. Jump those feet in. 2. If you don't like jumping your feet in, you can also step. 1, 2. That's a little bit easier. You can step back. 1, 2. Step in. 1, 2. And 1 more. Okay. Go ahead and pause that video and talk about how to reuse a tissue box. I bet you thought of a lot of ways you can reuse a tissue box. This can be a place to store lots of things. You could have a whole shelf of tissue boxes labeled with every student's name, That's a place for them to put their art supplies. Or, I don't know. I'm sure you came up with ideas though. I was going to say masks, but hopefully we don't have to have masks very much longer at school. All right, friends, our last thing, notebook. You've used all the paper in here. How can you reuse it? All right, we're going to do some exercises while you're thinking of that. So we're going to do some Russian twists. So you're going to get down on the ground, sit on your bottom. You're going to lift your feet up off the ground and touch side to side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. See if you can stand up without using your hands. Epic. So good. Go ahead and pause the video and talk about how you can reuse a notebook. Welcome back. Notebooks, I bet you came up with lots of different ways that you could reuse this. I'm just going to share one that I bet you didn't talk about. Notebooks can be used like bowling pins. So if you like to have equipment around in the classroom for little brain breaks, you could set up a notebook, even if it's already been used, like a bowling pin, and you could work on rolling an object and knocking it over, or creating a lot of notebooks in a pattern around the room that everyone has to walk around or through. So these can almost be like cones or bowling pins because they stand up pretty easily, and that can be kind of helpful. Okay, so we've talked about lots of different objects that we can find in classrooms. There's so many more. But when you finish using something, instead of just going over and throwing it in the trash, oh, my blue marker, it doesn't work anymore, I'm going to throw it in the trash. Ask, how could this be reused? Could this be helpful in some other way? Could this have another purpose? And go there first. So before you throw anything in the trash, always ask, could this be used in a different way? All right, I want you to end today by asking yourself, do you feel confident that you know how to reuse materials and the importance behind it? Feel like it's I kind of know, or I still don't know, Mrs. Z? I feel confident, not so sure, definitely not. You won't make me smile. Good job today. I'm proud of you, and I'm happy to see that you feel confident in reusing materials and understanding why. Have a great rest of your day.